Greetings to you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Today we will conclude our study on King Jehoshaphat. I remember many years ago, I was visiting a family, and there were these two little boys. They have not gone to school, still in Tadika, and these boys used to be very close to me. So whenever I visited the family, they will come and they'll sit on my lap, and then they'll tell me stories. So one day, as I was visiting the family, so one of the boys, he came and sat on my lap, and the parents were also there. And this boy started to tell stories. It's always interesting when children tell you stories. And then he said, Padri, I drank beer. My heart almost collapsed. I said, what? You drank beer? Who gave you? He said, no, Appa used to drink, and Appa used to keep in the fridge. And one day I opened the fridge, and I saw this beer, so I took and drank. When the father was very embarrassed, and he did not know what to say. But of course, knowing the family well, I told the father, "Hey, be careful, be careful. See, your children are following your footsteps." Sometimes, as parents, we don't realize the kind of impact that we are making on our children's life. Now, we may think that they are not observing us, but they are observing every move that we make. Now, they learn from our actions more than from what we advise them. When Jeffrey was a small boy, he was in a primary school. One day, my wife Sylvie, she came up to me and said, "You go and tell your son not to bite his fingernails." So it's normal. When the children are naughty, suddenly they become the father's children. He said, "You go and tell your son. Tell him to stop biting his fingernails." So I called him and said, "Son," actually I don't call my son by name, I always call him son. I said, "Son, Amma told me that you are biting your fingernails. It is not a good habit." So he looked at me very innocently and he said, "Appa, you also bite your fingernails." So he had been observing me biting my fingernails. So he had also started to bite his fingernails. Now, I did not teach him how to bite his fingernails, but he had been now observing. He had been observing me biting my fingernails. So he had learned. But I thank God. I am also grateful to God for my son. I told him, "Son, it is not a good habit," and he stopped biting his fingernails. Now, sometimes we don't realize. We don't realize our life is a sermon to our children. Our lives are practical sermons to our children. Now, when we read 2 Chronicles, we have been reading about King Jehoshaphat very highly devoted man. Now, I've always been impressed with his spirituality. Very highly devoted. And I've been saying that he brought revival to Judah. And in yesterday's sharing, I shared with you that he was reprimanded by God through Jehu the seer for going to war with Ahab, one of the most wicked king who ruled over Israel. Of course, King Ahab and Jehoshaphat, they made alliance through marriage. One of the sons of Jehoshaphat, had married the daughter of King Ahab. I read for you verse 6. Verse 6. I read for you from verse 5. Jehoram, who was the son of the eldest son of King Jehoshaphat, was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. He walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. Most probably Jehoshaphat for his own convenience. Now this was something very common, where kings married from another kingdom. They took wives from other nations to strengthen their alliance. So King Ahab and King Jehoshaphat, their relationship was more or less cemented through the marriage of their children. So King Jehoshaphat's son had married the daughter of King Ahab. Can you imagine how closely they were bonded? Ahab was a wicked king, just the opposite of King Jehoshaphat. But unfortunately, sadly, the godliness of King Jehoshaphat did not have much impact on the life of his son Jehoram. Unfortunately, Jehoram, the eldest son of King Jehoshaphat, did not follow the example, the spiritual example that the father was setting before his people. He brought revival to Judah. But then, in his own house, his son was being influenced by his in-law's side. I'm not sure what was the spirituality of King Jehoram before he married the daughter of King Ahab. But I'm very sure that his marriage to the daughter of King Ahab must have deformed his spirituality. All the influences that the father had imparted on his son all of a sudden disappeared. And King Jehoram, the eldest son of King Jehoshaphat, decided to follow the example of King Ahab. And that's what it says here verse 5. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem only 8 years. He walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done. So, which means he had rebelled against them. He had rebelled against them. Now, as I have been emphasizing, King Jehoshaphat was a very highly devoted man. Yet, in his devotion, one of the mistakes that he made was to ally himself with King Ahab, one of the most wicked king. And because of his alliance with King Ahab, because of his friendship with King Ahab, because of his willingness to go even to war with King Ahab, must have had a tremendous impact on his children, especially Jehoram. If father can relate with King Ahab, yes, people are saying that he's one of the most wicked king. Why can't I relate with him? After all, he's my father-in-law. So, most probably King Jehoshaphat was not aware. But the son bought this. If my father can relate to King Ahab, why can't I? And slowly, he was totally influenced by King Ahab and the family. Now, as parents, we must be very, very, very careful. Very, very careful. Sometimes there are areas in our life that we may not be conscious. There may be sins in our life that we may not be conscious, but it may have become part of our life, so we don't see those things as a real threat. For King Jehoshaphat, he did not see the spirituality of King Ahab as a threat because he knew God. His relationship with God was very strong. But as we read, we cannot say the same thing of the children. So as parents, we may think that I know what I'm doing. But our children, they are observing, they are watching. Then one fine day they will say, if Appa, if Amma can do, if Dad, Mommy can do that, why can't I also do that? No, it is, we must, as parents, must be very, very, very conscious. We must strive our very best. It is not easy. I can tell you, it is not easy to be a role model to our children, but we are to be role models. Now, because we sometimes come under so much of pressure, I've come across members who say, Padre, I just cannot because my job is to entertain clients. When I take them out, they drink and I must also drink with them. Of course, they say, no, it is my job. It is my job to drink with my clients. So the father says, no, that is my bread and butter. But the son or the children, how do they see the father? Do they see the father as one who comes back home sober? Or do they see the father coming back home drunk? Do they see the father as one with whom they can relate? Or as one who comes back drunk and beats up the mother or even the children? Now it is very important. Sometimes we as adults we can justify, we can argue our cases, but children they're just watching. Children are just watching. I remember reading this in the WhatsApp message. A father and son, they were crossing a stream. So the son was behind the father. So the father said, "Hey son, be careful where you're stepping." The son responded, "Dad, don't worry, I'm stepping where you stepped. So I'm just following you. I'm just following you." So as fathers, let us be conscious. Of course, we can be very spiritual. I want to conclude this with a incident which I cannot forget. In one of my former churches, there was this family. Parents, 100% devoted to God, Jesus. Very, very, very active, very, very highly respected couple. They were in the church council. Then they had sons, and so they engaged a maid who was not a Christian. And they practically spent, both of them were working, and when they came back from work, then they got involved in church activities. And this son, the youngest son, was 100%, I should say 100% under the supervision, care of the maid. And so she was not a Christian. So she used to take the son, the boy, wherever she went. She went to the temple, she took the boy. She went for Thai Pusam, she used to take the boy. So the boy was, the parents did not realize that the boy, their son, was being slowly influenced. Not because the maid was teaching him anything about the faith, but just taking him along. Just taking him along. He was becoming more and more and more of a Hindu. And then one day, they suddenly heard some bell sound coming from the son's room. The cling, 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 cling. They said, "Hey, what is happening? What's our son doing?" They told him to open the door. He was reluctant. And when he was forced to, there was a photo of a Hindu deity, and he was offering prayers. They got a shock of their life. Total shock. No, they cannot blame the maid. She did not teach him. She just took him wherever she went. And then now his secret had been it's now out. So he said, "No, I'm a Hindu now." And then he started going to the nearest temple, and I used to prepare the temple for Tuesday, Friday prayers. Literally become like a priest in the Hindu temple. And the parents were Christians, active members of the church, leaders of the church. They did not know what to do. But it had a very good ending. They started to pray. They told the friends to pray. And they all started praying. And one fine day, the son came up and came to the parents and said, "I want to become a priest. I want to go and do priesthood." He said, "I want to serve in the church." Wow. The parents immediately grabbed that opportunity and sent him to a seminary, and he graduated and he's a good priest. I know him personally. I'm also the godfather for one of his son. Very devoted, very committed man of God. Now, I'm sharing this because as parents, you must be very careful. Most probably, King Jehoshaphat took things for granted. He did not realize that his son was being influenced by King Ahab and family. we take things for granted. Let us not take the spirituality of our children for granted. As a priest and as a father, I've always, when Rebecca was in the UK, the first thing I'll ask her on a Monday is, darling, did you go to church? And sometimes even before I ask her, she will say, Papa, I went to this church. And same thing, I make sure that my son, Jeffrey, also goes to church. Because it is our responsibility as parents. Don't take the spirituality of your children for granted. And be careful as parents how you lead your Christian life. Pray that God will grant you wisdom. God will grant us as parents wisdom, discernment, and will guide us to be good examples to our children. God bless you. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.